My guest today is one of the world's most successful professional bodybuilders. His name is Hunter Labrada. He is my son. Welcome to the show. You have won every single bodybuilding show you've ever entered with the exception of the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, like you touched on, slid from 4th to 7th this year, and it was absolutely devastating.
Let's talk about what it takes to get psyched up and motivated. How do you handle the haters?
I don't do what you just said.
Welcome to the Lee Labrada Show.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Lee Labrada Show. My guest today is one of the world's most successful professional bodybuilders. His name is Hunter Labrada. Hunter placed in the top 8 in all 3 of his Mr. Olympia competitions, which is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, for those of you that don't know, and has placed as high as 4th place. He's a past winner of the 2021 IFBB Chicago Pro, the 2020 IFBB Tampa Pro, which was his rookie debut, and prior to his pro debut, Hunter was the winner of the 2018 NPC Nationals Bodybuilding Championship. Being one of the youngest pros in men's open bodybuilding makes him a rising star with pro bodybuilding legend potential. And of course, he is near and dear to my heart because, as many of you already know, he is my son. And so today we hope to give you guys an inside look not only at Hunter's career, but our dynamic father and son relationship. Hunter Labrada, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, son.
Looking forward to doing this. I'm really glad you asked me to do it. I've definitely seen a couple that you've done already, and you've definitely put your own spin on it. So looking forward to giving. I don't think we've ever done this before.
Nope. This is.
Yeah, it's always been like in like magazines
Yep.
and like forced questions and just like sitting around talking. So I'm looking forward to this.
This will be great.
People like it.
And so it segues into a comment that I was going to make, which is one of the challenges with doing this type of interview is that because we know each other so well, it's easy for us to assume that our viewers know all of our shared history. But let's not assume that. I'd like for you to share your history, your recollection growing up, and what led you to getting interested in competing in bodybuilding.
Definitely. So growing up, I was always very into sports. I, originally started playing hockey. Hockey was my first love, both roller and ice. And, from the time I was 5 until the time I was 12, I was all in on hockey. That's what I liked to do. All of my friends played hockey. It's kind of, what I had identified with, as you will, if you will, like I was a hockey player. And then as, middle school came around, football was a thing. And, living in Texas, those that don't know, I'm born and raised in Texas, and Lee's been in Texas for how long now?
Longer than I would care to admit.
Well, there you go.
40 years.
So he's about as official as it gets, born and raised too, close to it at least. So football's a religion here. So when I got into middle school, it kind of transitioned. All of my friends that I had made in school were going to play football. I had always known that I wanted to try, but up until that point, being like 4'11" and like 85 pounds wasn't that big of a deal. I was a scrappy forward in hockey, so made it happen. But for football, that was obviously a very different story. So, whenever I played football, I, really fell in love with it quickly, you remember. But, for those that don't know the story, fell in love with football. And, that became what I did and, what I really enjoyed doing and what I loved. And so being 80 pounds and knowing that I wanted to be good at football, started training to put on size. At the time, I had kind of come to realize that Dad was a good pro bodybuilder, but I didn't really realize, the breadth of it or anything like that. But I had good advice at home, so played football, liked football, knew that I wanted to get bigger for football, and entered my 5-year stretch of going to middle school and high school every day with a grocery sack full of food and training in the gym and just really buying all into, getting bigger for football and excelling at football.
I'm gonna share this with our viewers, but at one time when he first started playing football, he was probably, I would say, 70, 80 pounds max. And I have a picture of him his first year playing football, and he was literally right up to my shoulder. Now, folks, If I was 6 foot tall, that would be one thing, but I am 5'6" tall, and this boy was about yay tall up to my shoulder. And I thought to myself, this kid is not only did not get my bodybuilding genetics, but he's going to be scrawny. So he better be really, really smart. And then what happens is, he hits the teenage years. And, he just started growing, lifting in the weight room. He had a great strength training coach.
I did.
Yeah. And, you just started growing.
Yeah. So like he said, got into high school, excelled in my 7th and 8th grade seasons enough that I wanted to continue to do it. And so from 8th grade on, I actually put on 20 pounds a year. I don't know if you remember that or not. Some of it was because I was growing up. I graduated high school at like 5'8" on a good day. So, definitely grew up, but definitely got a lot bigger too. 20 pounds a year. I went from being, scrawny-ish to, playing my senior year at 5'8", like 205 pounds and lean. So, very muscular for a high school kid by the time I left high school. Actually earned a football scholarship to a school up in Boston. It was a Division II school, Bentley University. And to be honest, when I got up there and it wasn't high school football with my best friends, but a 50-hour-a-week time commitment, I decided that, I had truly arrived at the point, and I had arrived at this point, before I went up there. I knew that I was kind of falling out of love with football and into bodybuilding, but, truly had arrived at the point that I enjoyed training for football more than playing football, and that's so back-asswards. And at that point, I truly knew that I wanted to bodybuild for sure.
I still remember.
Oh yeah, no,
I remember
you were not happy.
I remember him coming off the football field and saying, "Dad, I'm done." And I go, "What do you mean you're done? You're playing college football." And he goes, "No." He goes, "My heart's not in it anymore." He goes, "I want to be a professional bodybuilder." And it's like my eyes open wide, and I'm going, "You want to be a professional bodybuilder?" Okay. Well, at that time, I didn't realize the potential that you were sitting on. But you were pretty sure of yourself. You said that if I continue to play football, I'm going to get hurt because my heart's not in it. I'm not playing 100%. So I gave you my then blessing. And
at the end of the day, football is just a rough sport too.
Yeah, that's right.
At that point, I had dislocated my shoulder, broke my arm, 2 concussions.
Yeah.
Avulsion fractured my hip. So it's one of those, not a matter of if, it's when and how bad you're going to get hurt. Kind
that's
of
right.
Sport,
we always say that. Shifting forward, after you get out of football, what made you want to compete?
I've talked about this a lot in recent years. I feel like you can come from one of 2 camps when you're a bodybuilder, and that is you come from an athletic background and you wanted a continuation for that outlet, or you came from a background where you might have gotten picked on or just wanted to look a certain way or this or that. And it's very much so 2 camps that I've come to see in bodybuilding. So for me, I grew up all my life an athlete, and excelled reasonably well at the sports that I chose to play. So definitely, identified with being, competitive at whatever that it was that I was doing, and definitely wasn't ready to be done, being an athlete. So, I'd fallen in love with, training at a young age, and, just kind of pivoted into, putting it all into bodybuilding. And, we talk about potential, and we talk about, what we were sitting on and whatnot. And it's one of those things, and this is for anyone out there listening, people want to talk about potential and people want to talk about overnight successes. I was looking at my pictures even from Nationals 2 days ago, and looking at that, I wouldn't have said that guy's going to win a pro show.
That was 2018.
Yeah, and that was 2018. That was 5 years ago now. So it's one of those things. A lot of people want to say it happened quick, but it's been, a decade in the making. So.
That's right. Now, everybody's anxious. Everybody is, just in a hurry to get their pro card these days. And to your credit, at the time, you had actually qualified to go on to compete in the Nationals by winning your first bodybuilding show, the NPC Branch Warren. Mm-hmm. But you decided to hold back for a year. So tell us why you did that.
Yeah, so I had a good old wise bodybuilder in my corner saying, take your time, win at this level before you go to the next level. Climb up the rungs of the ladder. Don't try and jump 6 rungs up, slip, and bust your lip on the ladder. So, that's exactly what we did. My very first show ever, we went out, we won my class in the overall. We shut it down, knew that we needed to grow. The next year, we went from a local show to, what I would consider the biggest, regional show in Texas. The Europa had at the time a 212 and an Open Pro show attached to it. So, it was a big show, big convention center. Definite step forward, in my opinion, and won my class in the overall at that show. People were pretty sure that was the year that I was going to go. And, both you and I, especially, after the year before, we watched John Jewett win the Europa and then go on to win USA's in his class. And I wasn't, in my mind up to par with that physique yet. So very pragmatically said, nope, we're going to wait again. So that was, the big regional show. The following year, we went on to start the season with a junior level national show. And this is a head scratcher to a lot of people, but to other people, they understood it. At Junior USA's and Junior Nationals, for those that don't know, give pro cards to the winners of every other class in the competition except for men's bodybuilding. So if you go to that show, even though it's a national show, if you win it, it's not a pro qualifier. You don't get a pro card. So not a lot of bodybuilders like to do it. Well, back in the day, you had to do a junior level show before you went to do a national show. So that was the next step on my ladder. Went and did Junior USA's, won both my class and the overall there. At that point, after winning that show, I felt like I was ready. The people that I had around me thought I was ready. Lee thought I was ready. And we went on to do nationals that November, and I won both my class and the overall there. So finished my career out as an amateur without having lost a show and a national champion because I took my time. And
that's something that we can all learn from, because again, what happens to a lot of these amateurs is that they're in a hurry to get the pro card. Some of them do, but then what? They're not ready to compete at a pro level for like next 5 years. I'll tell you a little anecdote, kind of a funny story that popped into my mind. But my friend Lee Haney, who I competed with in the 80s, as everyone knows, arguably one of the greatest Mr. Olympias ever, if not the greatest ever. And we were backstage at the NPC Nationals. And he was there giving out trophies. I was standing there right next to him, and he saw you pose, and he turns to me and says in that southern drawl, he says, "Lee, Hunter's a monster." So it was just a lot of fun. Now, Hunter, you mentioned about winning all of your bodybuilding shows, and what a lot of people don't realize is that you have won every single bodybuilding show, both amateur and professional, that you've ever entered, with the exception of their Mr. Olympia. Let's talk about that a little bit.
You basically hit the factoid on the head. To this day, we have yet to not win a show that we've done outside of the Olympia. I'm going to put that one on the line this year for sure. We're definitely doing 2 shows outside of the Olympia, so looking forward to that. But yeah, still have a undefeated mindset with when we prep for shows for sure. So
let's go into the mindset for a quick second. See, we know that you've competed in the Mr. Olympia 3 times. You've taken 4th, 7th, and 8th. This last time, you slipped down to 7th. That's something that is a challenge, a mental challenge to anyone. I want you to talk about the challenges and what it takes to overcome setbacks, not just as a bodybuilder, but what you've learned that can be applied as a lesson to anything in life.
Definitely. Something that I love about bodybuilding is I feel like there's a lot of parallels to life because it's one of those sports that you do, 24 hours a day and, you live and die by, checking all your boxes on it. It's not like you go and, play basketball really well and then go about your life for the other 23 hours a day. You have to be checking all your boxes, much like life. If you aren't checking all your boxes with life, you aren't going to be successful. So definitely think there's a lot of parallels to that. But yeah, like you touched on, slid from 4th to 7th this year. And it was, to put it mildly, absolutely devastating. Especially, after working as hard as I had for a year straight for it. So, I think that was the first lesson that, you can take away from something is, it's okay to care about things. It's okay to be upset about things. It's okay, it means you care about them. In the wake of it, though, it's one of those things that you have like that proverbial, fork in the road. One's, full of a bunch of like mud that you're going to get stuck in and just wallow in for forever. And you might get on track and you might not. And then, the other one might not look like a lot of fun, but it's, straight and narrow and you got to walk it. But eventually the road opens back up for you. So, in the wake of, me slipping or, in the wake of any major life event, like I said, you got 2 choices. And fact of the matter is, you might be putting a face on and putting one foot in front of the other for, days, weeks, months at a time. But, it beats the opposite.
Absolutely
It beats
does.
just laying in it and giving up. So
Yeah, that's right.
That's all you can do.
It's interesting because I was talking to some friends about this last night, and I told them no failure is permanent unless you make it so. The only way that you can fail permanently is if you quit. Mm-hmm. And then it makes me think about something that my father, your grandfather, used to tell me all the time, which is no matter how hard things get, you get up in the morning and you just keep putting one foot right in front of the other. You just got to keep moving forward. And any champion realizes over a period of time that they're not going to win every battle, but if they keep fighting, they can win the war. Mm-hmm. So speaking of winning the war, one of your favorite sayings is win the day. So let's talk about what it takes to get psyched up and motivated to do what you do every day, training as hard as you do and sticking with your diet. How do you do that?
I don't do what you just said. I'm not trying to be funny, but, tongue in cheek, this is a big thing of mine. What do you do to get psyched up and motivated? Been doing this for 10 years straight. I don't get psyched up and motivated to do it anymore. I'm disciplined to do it. And I think that's, one of the biggest things that people getting into anything new in life, whether it be their first time in the gym or their first time trying fly fishing or their first day at a new job or, anything new that they are not practiced and established at, it takes some time to get to the point that you want to be at.
That's right. So let me ask you this: as far as the diet goes, I used to have some issues every once in a while when I was dieting for a competition like the Mr. Olympia, and I would diet so hard, and I would get these just god awful cravings, and I knew that your mom, Robin, had cookies stashed somewhere in the house. She would hide them. And so I would go on a cookie hunt in the middle of the night.
So it almost makes it worse when you don't know where they're at. It's like a game.
Yes.
If you know where they're at, you can say, no, don't go there.
And I would find the cookies, and sometimes I would just put them back. I found them. And other times I would get into the cookies, and man, I felt terrible. Not just physically, but I felt terrible mentally, like I had messed up. Do you ever cheat on your diet when you're out from a pro show? And if so, how do you overcome that?
So I've never in my entire history of competing ever had a gone off the rails binge.
That's amazing.
I will say that. I've never done that.
That's amazing.
I really can claim that. What I can claim to have done, and it did make me feel exactly the way that you do, is, middle of the night. That's the only time I ever have an issue with it. Right. Is middle of the night, get up, stomach's inside out, and, I'll go and we have little individually wrapped candies that we give to Brooklyn in her lunch, or little the 100-calorie snack size things, and I'll eat one of those candies or eat half of the 100-calorie pack and throw it away.
Yeah.
And that's far and few between, and I definitely feel like a piece of shit after doing it. But man, I think if everyone's honest, everyone's had at least something like that.
Yeah.
At least once. I could be wrong, but
and I think about it this way. I'm a lot more understanding nowadays when I give advice to people. I say, look, if something like that happens, it's like getting a flat tire along the side of the road. And so what do you do when you get a flat tire? You get out and you fix the tire. You don't get out and slash the other three because, man, I've screwed it up. Now I might as well really screw it up and binge.
In your defense with that example, the flat tire is it's like getting out of your car, putting a nail in front of one of the tires and then driving over it. It's a self-inflicted flat tire.
It's a self-inflicted flat tire. Dude, does the pressure ever get to you? I mean, I have seen you focused and just inside your head, when you're competing, when you're out there in the gym, does the pressure ever get to you?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I'm going to borrow one of Chris Bumstead's lines, though, and, pressure is a privilege. There's a reason that I feel that pressure. It's I hold myself to a certain standard, and at the end of the day, that's the most important thing is,
that's a good one.
You got to hold yourself to a standard. But if you're feeling, people talk about all the time, oh, I've got haters, I've got this, I've got that. If you're feeling that outside pressure from the world on you for what you're doing, that means that you have done it big enough to draw that attention. Mm-hmm. Pressure is a privilege. People want to see you fall on your face the better you're doing.
Sure, sure.
So it's motivating for sure.
So you feel that the pressure comes mostly from outside of you? In other words, the pressure that the fans or the haters put out there?
No, not at all. And I think if you let that be your main like source of pressure, I think you're setting yourself up for failure / like misery. The pressure that I get on myself, that I place on myself, comes intrinsically from myself, and then B, from those around me that, like I value. I feel pressure to do well for you. I feel pressure to do well for Ben. I feel pressure to do well for Liv. For those of you that don't know, that's my wife and my coach, Liv and Ben. But yeah, I feel pressure to do well for myself and for the people around me, not because of outside factors.
We live in a world of social media. You brought up the haters, so to speak, so how do you handle the haters? I mean, what do you say to that?
Man, I think there's a couple, we'll talk about haters. I think there's a couple different like kinds. You have, the people that are, little like 18-year-old soy boys living in their mom's basement on their keyboards, just being absolutely hateful. And for people like that, I've long since not let them get under my skin because, like, A, if you give them the time of day, that's all they want. But, like, B, if you really take a step back and think about it, like, how bad of a position do you need to be in as a person to go on some random person who you've never met before in your life and just say some, like, really mean, hurtful things to them?
Right.
Like, how does that person, like, what do they have to be feeling inside to feel like that's a productive use of their time or a good thing to go do?
No doubt.
So that's, like, one group. And, I don't give them the time of day. Then you've got, like, the bodybuilding fans, if you will. And they're an interesting group because they think they're being fans by offering very, 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 very sharp pointed criticisms.
Yes.
And, in the past, that was never, no one had the ability to do that.
You know what? It's funny because we talked about this, back in my era 30
well, I think
years
it's
ago.
funny, and this is one of those things, I'll say this.
Yeah.
Y'all dealt with nothing compared to what we deal with.
Let me tell you.
In terms of, like, pressure from fans.
Well, here's the thing, because what Hunter's referring to is the fact that back then there was no internet. So any publicity that we got, any appearance in the magazines, it was in a print magazine. So print magazines don't talk back. Yeah. Nowadays, everything's digital. And as soon as you post something, of course, you're going to get positive and negative critiques back and comments and so forth, so on. So you guys have more pressure than we did back in the day in that sense, for sure.
Absolutely.
And,
I think a lot of, the old heads, if you will, playing with y'all, but, a lot of them have been like, oh, they need to be have thicker skin. They need to, be tougher about things.
Let me tell you.
That's coming from someone that like might have had, a cross fan or two say something once or twice to him here and there.
Yeah.
Not, the onslaught every single day that all of us deal with. It's very different. You
got to stay out of it. You almost got to stay out of it. You mentioned something about, externalizing, and it kind of jogged the thought that, in my career, there was a point, it was actually in 1990, after I competed in the Mr. Olympia, in the prejudging, I was actually coming out of the prejudging leading the then champion Lee Haney by 3 points. And then when the final call-outs came that evening, for first and second place, I came in second place, which was absolutely shocking to me, given that I was leading coming out of the prejudging, and at that point I realized that I could not continue to externalize and give the judges that much sway over how I felt about myself and my physique. That was a turning point for me, at which I said, you know what, I'm just going to internalize and focus on becoming the best Lee Labrada I can become from year to year, rather than externalize and say, well, next year I'm going to try to move up from, fourth place to first place, or from third place to first place, or whatever the case might be.
Speaking bodybuilding specifically, it's the most miserable sport in the world if you attach yourself to your contest placings. Mm-hmm. Speaking life in general, yardsticking yourself against other people or other things is a surefire way to be miserable too. You got to yardstick yourself against yourself.
Absolutely. And you know what? That brings to mind something that I heard the other day, which is that a lot of people spend time on social media looking through the window, at the successes of others and measuring themselves against that, versus looking in the mirror and saying, how can I improve myself? So Hunter, we are one of two father and son teams in the sport of bodybuilding that are legacy teams. The other team is Sergio Oliva Sr. and Sergio Oliva Jr. fantastic bodybuilders.
There's a couple other father-son duos that I think are pro, but I think we can say it this way, and we are one of two. We are one of two Olympia qualified father-son duos.
Yes, and let's say that we're one of two, we're one of the father-son duos that have placed top 4 in the Mr. Olympia. So let me ask you this. I'm sure that you get lots of comparisons and that type of thing. You know, how would you compare your physique and my physique, your era and my era?
So he was mass with class. I'm a lot more mass with a little less class.
That's not funny, dude.
No, just in terms of the physique. In terms of the physique, that's the best way to describe it. You know, Lee competed at your heaviest, I think, was 192 on stage.
192.
So I was 262 at the Olympia this year.
Yeah,
they're very different physiques.
It's crazy.
There are a lot of very striking similarities, especially in the side shots, in my opinion. You know, the side chest and the side triceps.
I would also say the shoulder to waist differential.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
is one of your advantages.
Definitely. And, you know, I'm trying to get to the point where I can bring the level of conditioning that you brought. I still have a little bit left to do with that. And then, you know, being the day and age that I compete in the men's open, like I said, I talked about the weight discrepancy. It's definitely, you know, a balancing act with the waist, with the midsection for sure, you know, carrying enough size to be competitive and open while still maintaining that waistline. So definitely, you know, different ages, day and times for sure.
For sure. Hunter, what are your plans for this year in terms of your training, your nutrition, your preparation, and, you know, and how do they differ from last year's?
So this year, we're headed into the improvement season, you know, off season, if you will, with the mindset that we don't need to get big. You know, the size at this point's there, you know, except for my back, you could argue, but we've placed a big emphasis on that in the training program. But, you know, the main emphasis this off season is, you know, refinement and, you know, minimizing my waistline. This last off season, you know, it was 13 months straight of me eating like 6,000 calories a day.
Do you feel that distended your stomach?
I do, absolutely. And, you know, it's not a secret. I'm not trying to dance around the subject. My midsection was not as good as it has been in years past at the Olympia this year. I think that was a combo of, you know, there was a little bit of body fat left. The peak was not where it should have been. And,
you know, that's
my abs just aren't as developed as they should be. You know, that was after a year of training them every 3 days. So,
Hunter, that's one of the things I really respect about you as a person and as a competitor is that you're very honest about yourself and the condition and analyzing yourself, because I have met a lot of bodybuilders that really are blinded to their faults.
We are in a sport that is full of narcissists and
well
and delusional people, for sure. For sure. I'd like to think that I'm not one of them. That's funny.
Of them. Yeah. Yeah. What is your advice for those upcoming athletes who want to compete? They've never competed before. They want to compete in bodybuilding. What's your advice to them?
That bodybuilding is a marathon, not a sprint. I have 3. That's the first one. Second one is...
So take your time, be patient,
yeah,
right?
Take your time, be patient. 2, and this one kind of can piggyback on the first one, is there is life after bodybuilding. Both financially, health-wise, and, you know, relationship-wise. There is life after bodybuilding.
So it's important to preserve all those things.
Yeah, it's important to keep that in perspective. You know, if you're not doing this for a living and you might not even have a shot of going pro, you don't need to be spending your kids' college tuition and growth hormone every year.
Right.
You know, for example, you know,
right.
or you don't need to be, you know, completely sequestered yourself from your family for the last 5 years at all family events because you're dieting and don't even want to be around the food.
Well put.
Or, you know, you don't want to do things to your body that are going to set you up to have serious, you know, internal health issues later in life. So,
that's right.
You know, there's life in the last one. This is my favorite one. You asked for someone who has never competed before, and I say this every time I get asked this, and that is, remember that competing is a privilege. It's not something that someone's forcing you to do. I really can't stand it whenever people who have never even competed before, people that have competed before, are making themselves and everyone around themselves miserable. I feel like shit. Oh, I'm so hungry. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that.
I've seen that.
No,
lots.
You get to do this and you get to do that. You get to go to the gym in the morning. You get to go to the gym after work. You get to eat 6 times a day.
It's a privilege.
You are choosing to fucking starve yourself. Like, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is a privilege to compete. So don't make those around you miserable.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That is great advice. Now, you've been working really hard on creating videos for your YouTube channel. You have a large Instagram following. How do people find your YouTube channel and your Instagram and your website?
That is very easy. The website's hunterlabrada.com. The Instagram's just Hunter Labrada, all lowercase, no spaces. And the YouTube is that as well. So very easy to find. And, like he said, definitely put out a lot of content, more in the educational biomechanics wheelhouse for the most part. So if you're wanting to get help, training, or, you don't know where to start in the gym, I'd say my content's really great for you. Or if you're an advanced bodybuilder.
I would second that, because I will tell you that I've met few people that know as much about the biomechanics of exercise as you do and have the ability to dumb it down and to explain it. So I would tell all of you that want to learn about bodybuilding, want to learn about the nuances of exercises, how they work, and to maximize your results, to check out Hunter's YouTube channel. Hunter, this was great today. I just want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, this was awesome.
Yeah, really.
We'll have to do a part 2 sometime soon.
Let's do a part 2.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they'll love to see that. Hey, guys, help us to grow the Lee Labrada Show YouTube podcast by telling one of your friends about it. And be sure to hit the subscribe all button below. Ring the bell, as they say, and that way you'll get all of my podcasts as they become available. So without further ado, guys, stay motivated, get up and look up, and God bless.
The Lee Labrada Show.
My life flashes right before me.